Good morning, everybody. I want to thank you all for joining me on today's webinar, Mastering the Map. The goal for today is to review the tools and buttons of the quick search map has to offer us. So we're not necessarily running a quick search or anything, but basically just the toolbox that we have available. So let's just get started. For me, I would just click the quick search button here in my favorites bar. But if you don't have your quick search option here, you can click the menu. And under the search header here, the first option is quick search. Just hover to the left of it, like I am with MLS number search here. Click it so it fills in with gold. And then that will appear in your favorites bar if you want it there. If even after that you still cannot find it, your eyes just are not working on for you, simply just type the word quick in the menu search bar and it will isolate the quick search for you. So now let's just get into it with a little tidbit of fun info. 6600. So again, today I want to talk about the toolbox Flex gives us with this map. So I'm focusing really over on this right side here, these buttons at the top and this toolbar here kind of running down the right side. So just to talk about the buttons up here, and I'm skipping customize map, but I can talk about this map button that's black with white text, and then this satellite button that's white with blue text. So if I click satellite real quick, you can see that the color swap between the buttons happens. So that lets me know that the black and white text button is basically the pressed button, what's currently clicked for the option. And you can see what it did for me. It just made my map view here the satellite view. So it gives us a more realistic look at the geography of the area, right? You can see like fields, the trees, the roads, etc. Might be good for a property. Perhaps maybe a client wants something that's private, buried and nestled away in the woods. This gives you a good opportunity to see that in real time. However, it does look a little messy, of course, which is why the typical map view here, just kind of like the flat colors, seems to be the more popular of the options. And now we can move to this overlays drop down here. So I'm going to open that menu up and I'll zoom out a little bit actually, and I'll start clicking on these MLS overlay links. So for example, the first one is cities. So I'll click on that. And as you may have expected, what it's doing is it's drawing out the city or like the town lines amongst each other. That way, maybe if something is right on the edge, a result or a listing is kind of right on the edge of two towns, you might get a better idea of where it lands from the city's overlay. I'm going to make the map a little messy here, but just want to kind of point out that we can stack overlays. So if I click counties as well, and I zoom out, and you can see it even does it over in the rest of the country. But if I kind of just focus on Maine specifically, we can see now we have our county outline. And then you can see within that kind of these like squared city boundaries. But of course, right, that's pretty messy. So what we can do is undo the cities. The next set of overlays is the FEMA flood zones. So if I click those on, you can see now we have these kind of like dark gray outlines of the different waterways. And this is what the flood zone map that we get, excuse me, from FEMA looks like. We pull this from FEMA. And then we have, and I'm skipping imagery parcels for now, because we also have ME flood zones, which is a flood zone overlay provided by the state of Maine specifically. So if we look up like right here by, let's just say Lincoln right here, you can see that FEMA doesn't have this kind of like north of Orono to Lincoln area designated as a flood zone, but Maine apparently does designate that as a flood zone. So it might be important to turn both of them on and let the dark gray areas let you know what is overlapping, right? A lot of this coastal area is overlapping. And then kind of this area I pointed out here is just denoted by the main flood zone. So it might be good to have both turned on if you're doing a little bit of research on this. And I will come back to imagery parcels, but that will be the last one I touch on. So then we have school districts, right? They get a little more specific than cities. And I can turn on cities too. And you can see it's kind of like a perfect overlay, which makes sense. But you can also check out school districts, perhaps maybe like the town you're in has multiple school districts if you're in a big city or something. And you want to see which property, which school zone it might actually fall in. This would give you a good rough idea of that. And then we have zip codes as well, which can be good. Again, some bigger cities have multiple zip codes. You might want to know which one specifically is this falling in. And now we can talk about imagery parcels here right in the middle. So I'm just going to zoom in on Gorham real quick. And you can see as we get closer, kind of like more and more detail of the map appears. And once you get close enough, you have these light gray outlines. You can see them off of like Church Street here, these long rectangles. So these are estimated property lines, estimated property boundaries. And on the map view, they always appear once you get close enough, once you're zoomed in enough. However, when you go into the satellite view, right, they don't have those estimated property lines available. And that's where the imagery parcels come in. Essentially, what it's doing is just overlaying those estimated property lines over the satellite view. So if I switch over to map, for example, right, it actually just makes it harder to see because it's overlaying a white line on top of the gray line that we were seeing before. So dark gray, and then he kind of like lightens up when it stacks with the imagery parcel. So just know the imagery parcels are simply just the estimated property lines for the satellite view. All right, and I'll turn those off because we are now ready to talk about some of the tools in our toolbar over here, kind of towards like the bottom right, you can say, of the property of the quick search map. So first we have our hand tool. It's the one that's currently not highlighted, but outlined in a box, letting us know that's what we have selected. And that's just letting us know that we're grabbing stuff, right? We can grab the map and move it around. We have our plus sign, which you can't really see the text under my cursor, but it says zoom in. So when I have the plus, if I click, it will zoom me in closer to that location. Of course, I'm already pretty close, so let me test it again. You can see it kind of just gets me a little closer to my area. Ooh, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I forgot. I can highlight an area to zoom to it as well. I'm going to grab my hand again because I want to get to some property lines. So I can show you the third tool, which is the Nosy Neighbor tool, which is the like the blue information logo here. So if I click that and then click on a property, let's just do this one right here. You can see it gives us the rough boundaries. Again, estimated, right? Estimated boundaries for the property line. Gives us the opportunity to go straight into Realist to grab some tax information or public records. You could also start like a radius search from here, go into Google Street View, or do like a bird's eye satellite image for a more realistic view of it. If this had been entered into the MLS, let me just try like this one just to see. Aha, okay, now I can show you. So where this one, right, has the same information as before, but this one has been listed in the MLS prior, this property, and that's denoted here, listing history. So it just lets us know that this property has in fact been on the MLS. Here's the listing that is referencing that. So you can get to that report just by clicking here, because it's kind of neat. All right. Next, we have this triangle measuring stick looking icon. So this is the measure tool. So perhaps you want to know the distance between two places. And let's just pick on this property right here, 26 Church Street. And maybe your clients are interested in how close to the university campus is it. So we can gauge that. So we're at the front of the house. I'm just going to click once to get started. And as I'm moving my line, you can see that it gives me like the segment length and the total length of my lines. So that will look a little clearer here pretty soon. So you go to the end of Church Street. Let's click once to kind of lock in that segment and then start moving. You take a left and then you take a right down College Ave. And then you can go up this road and we can say, hey, that's good enough, right? So what we can say is that from the front of our property to, this part of the campus, you're about 2,200 feet away. So it give you just like a rough idea of distance between two things. Could be good for the property and maybe like the client's parents' house if they want to live within a certain distance from them, a church, um, schools, for example. Maybe they're trying to see how close or how long it would take them to walk to the beach if you're on a coastal city. So you can kind of map this out for them and just say, hey, it would be about 2,000 feet. So you could walk there in 5 minutes or 10 minutes, however long it takes to walk 2,000 feet. And then we can skip our drawing tools for right now because that's the last thing I'm going to do. So I want to talk about this red pin. Well, let me double click to get rid of that real quick. So when you're done with a line, just double click and it erases. Now let's go to our red pin icon here, which is the locate address. So we just need to put in an address we're searching for on the map. So this could be helpful if maybe you're doing some research in Gorham here, and now you need to move to do some research in Lisbon. Let's just say Lisbon, because that's where the property I'm going to use as an example is. So instead of zooming out of the map where we are, messing around until we find Lisbon, and then zooming back in, for example, we could just do our address. And I'm not going to fill out all of it. I don't believe I have to. We'll see if we find it just based on this information. Oh, it does require it, of course. So let's fill out all the information so Flex can be confident about which Sparsom Street in Lisbon I'm referring to, of course. So thanks. And now it has pinned this property for me, has zoomed me right to that location. And now I can zoom out a little bit, unless you really needed that specific location. And I don't recommend that clearly, but now you're in Lisbon. So you can plug in just a simple one Main Street Lisbon address and just let the map zoom you to the location for you. If this is something that you wanted or needed to use, because this is maybe a subject property you're doing some research on, right? You can click use this location, which locks that pin down. And now from here, we can start a radius search. We can do our street view, which is Google Street. Bird's Eye does the satellite view. And then we can also remove the pin from the map as well to clear that out. But I find that to be a really good way to just get yourself from one town to another very quickly, especially if you're not 100% sure where that town is within the state of Maine, because that's what I struggle with the most, looking all over the state. Next, we have our color legend, which doesn't say much right now because we don't really have anything going on in our search. So let's run a quick search here. And really what I'm looking for is just pulling the statuses. So I'm just going to select all the statuses, let it go a year back, and I'll stick to Lisbon since this is where we are right now. You can see the map zooms me out to get all of our results look or pinned on the same view of the map. And we have a bunch of different colors, right? We have blues, we have greens, purples, blacks, yellows, reds even, or orange, not yellow, perhaps. And if you wanted to know what do these colors really even mean, well, we can check out our this little color wheel, which is the color legend. So if I click that, now it gives us some information, right? Green is active, this orange is pending, blue are closed, red is expired, purple is canceled, black is withdrawn. Active, active under contract, and coming soon, no show all appear as green dots because those are all considered active, so to speak. We have a couple other options that we can do for this color legend. So instead of sorting or coloring the dots by price or by status, we can also sort it by price. So now we have a better idea of the prices relative to each other for these properties, right? So like the darker, deeper red the dot is, the higher the price. So if I click on this, we can see the price is 405 at 44 Village Street. And if I click on this white one right here, we can see this one is listed for just 75,000 or sold for just 75,000. So it gives you an idea of where expensive properties are relative to the town. Definitely noticeable when you're on like waterfront on a coastal city, you'll see the coast is typically darker red. And we can do something in a similar vein. We can do the price per square foot, which doesn't typically change much, but could just be a different way of looking at how things are being priced if you prefer a price per square foot view as opposed to just a straight up price view. Let's switch back to status because this is what I'm familiar with. No thanks. Stop asking me. And now let's work on these drawing tools here, and I'll just give you quick examples of how to use them. So I'm going to zoom back into Sparsom Street. It's what I know. And I am going to start drawing out a shape here. So the first option to draw is a rectangle. So I have the rectangle selected. I'm going to click once on my map, just once. And you can see that it starts my shape off for me. You can see it's a nice, obviously uniform square or rectangle, depending on the side of the sides. And for me right now, this actually isn't really working, right? Like I want to trace out Sparsom Street, and I don't think this rectangle is doing it for me. I'm going to close. I'm going to zoom back in. That rectangle does not seem to be doing it for me. I'm not able to really trace out that line like I want to. So let's just get a good shape down over here, perhaps, just to show you what it looks like, right? That's what I'll do. And then I can zoom back in. You can very, very loosely see like the blue dot right here of that shape. So if there's no results within the shape you draw, Flex will just zoom you out to the total overall map. And if there are results within the shape you draw, you'll be zoomed in inside that shape. So let's work on the next shape now, because the rectangle didn't help me trace out Sparsom Street. It's just too awkward of this like bend here, right? For a rectangle to be what I need it to be. Well, let's try the circular tool, or like the radius, we can call it. And now let's see if I can capture Sparsom Street with this radius. So I'm going to start in the middle and I'm going to expand out. And already the circular tool is not what's for me. Even though that I do capture all of Sparsom Street, which is great, I'm also getting neighbors up Main Street and neighbors down Main Street as well. So this circle doesn't seem to really be the right tool either to try to capture this road. I'm going to zoom back into Lisbon real quick. So I'm just going to come over to my search criteria and click the X next to the circle to get rid of it. And let's just zoom me out over and over again. It's good zooming practice. And let me just draw a shape around here. Why not? Just to show you what it looks like. And so now this circle actually has results, which is why I didn't just zoom me back out. It zoomed me into the map so I could see my 4 results pinned together. Excellent. All right, but I really want to isolate Sparsom Street with a drawn shape here with an overlay. So let's try our polygon tool, the third option. I kind of consider this, or I think of this as like the free form field, the free form box. where I get to kind of pick and choose basically the shape of it, to a degree, of course. So now I want to trace out the Sparsom Street property lines as best as I can here, just given this view. So I can see the property line for these Sparsom Street houses here kind of lines up right here. So I'm going to start here. I'm going to trace this line. I'm going to go up. I'll go over. I probably could do better up at this, like the most northern property I'm about to highlight. I'm coming down, and I'm just following the property lines of the Sparsom Street homes. And click, click, click. And then when I'm happy, I double click to lock in that shape. You can see it comes up as polygon. And it zoomed me back to my circle again because that's the only shape that actually has results. So that's what Flex is trying to show me. But that should give you an idea of what it's like to draw the rectangle, the circle, the polygon tool. All right. Well, that is all I have for you. Those were the overlays, the map and satellite view, and the tools from the toolbar. So I'm going to reset. I want to thank you for joining me for today's webinar on mastering the map. And if you have any questions after the webinar ends, please feel free to call us at 780-1366 or email us help@mainlistings.com. Have a good rest of your day.